Hello everyone, welcome to Starting Over Studio. I am a little embarrassed by this mess, but at the same time, I think, when we're all starting off, I feel like especially when we utilize YouTube as a platform regularly, we can be really drawn in by these art hall videos and watching videos of artists who really are established illustrators or who know what they're doing with all these materials, right? And they swatch them on beautiful, clean pages in perfect, ovals and circles, or sometimes even sloppy, messy, juicy, smushy squares. And we are just so like, oh, I love that color. Because if you are interested in making art, you kind of have a natural affinity for art supplies, I feel like. But then what happens, the reality of it is it looks like this, right? We buy all these things because we saw it on a video and we had to have it. We thought, okay, I'm really going to get serious about making art. And then we buy the supplies and one, might not know what to do with them, how to use them, where to put them, just like it becomes overwhelming. Like the idea of making art in theory seems very easy and very approachable, but in practice, it's quite challenging. I think something that novice art people, people interested in making art that haven't really done it before, don't realize how many decisions you actually have to make when you're making art. I was a professional photographer before I started to go down this journey, before I decided that I wanted to, learn to paint and express myself with my hand more rather than my eye so much. And so I was just like, oh, I can do it. I'm already a professional artist. I've already made a living, making art. I can do this. And I've always sort of been interested in art. So, but I really haven't. I did take some watercolor classes several years ago from a teacher who kind of did a coloring book method. She didn't really teach you why you were doing this or what you were doing. She just sort of was like, just do what I'm telling you to do, and if you made a mistake and you wanted to figure out how to fix it, she would say, no one's going to notice it. I just think she was kind of limited in what she understood about the medium as well, which is, hey, fine. It was good for me at the time. But I wanted to go beyond that. I wanted to be able to express myself, not just copy someone's art, right? So, or do what I was told, what's the fun in that? So, I did walk away from that class with a piece in a gallery show, and, I was like, I learned something in the process, and I certainly did, just through the experience of using watercolor, learn more about watercolor and learn that I actually really loved watercolor. I had been very intimidated by it before. But anyway, when I got into it this time, I was really determined to try everything, to try every style, to try every medium, to try everything. I just wanted to have fun and go down this colorful journey and really enjoy myself. And I have done that. But I have also accumulated, this is not even remotely part of it. I have accumulated or amassed, because this has been several years that I've been like, oh, I'm going to do this, and watching YouTube videos and then buying this stuff and then being like, trying it maybe like once and being like, I don't know, it's a lot harder than it looks, or I don't know, just the whole, what am I going to make with this? Where am I going with this? What plan do I have? Sitting down with a blank piece of paper and being like, okay, I'm going to draw this, all of that has been, kind of has stopped me in my tracks many times. So, anyway, in December 1st, well, actually it was in November, I really decided I'm going to commit to making art every day, no matter what. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care. I just don't care. I'm doing it, and I'm going to use these supplies. I'm going to figure it out until they're gone. And I don't know how practical that is, but sometimes you just need that jumping off point. So I started. And I had this sketchbook. This was something I bought somewhere along the way. And I started using it. And I had no idea why using craft paper in a sketchbook was such a good thing. I didn't understand at the time that it was like a medium tone and that you can, build on it. You can, go white and go dark. You can, you can really utilize having a toned paper to your advantage. I had no idea. I was just using this sketchbook because I had it. I was taking some classes. I was, the free classes that are offered online. I was making palettes of colors that I liked and mixing them and trying them together and changing them. I was just allowing myself to be completely inspired by the process. I was swatching some of those things that I had, purchased. I was allowing myself to get carried away with color and try different color schemes and different color palettes. I was painting, you guys, these are so good. These Ghirardelli pistachio chocolates are off the chain. And I was just sort of using what I had and playing with it. I was doing table settings. I was just playing and doing things that I cared about, I was trying to draw people there, obviously. I think I took a class on it. I was writing down just like different ideas. I was trying things with water and with alcohol. I was, writing down, this is actually a video on like Japanese tea ceremonies, and I found that it just so worked with art, the ideas and the theories and the ceremony of it, everything. It just really aligned with my art process. So I took a lot of notes on that I could like come back to for inspiration. But as you can see, it was really bad. And I don't want to be judging my journey. It was the beginning, you can tell. I won't say it's bad or good. I will just say that was the beginning. And that was just in December. And then I was also kind of doing this at the same time. This just like cheap flip sketch pad. I was, drawing things from nature. I was doodling plant things because that's what I really wanted to do, was be able to be a plein air artist and like go out and draw things. I was trying to draw things on my desk. I was just playing around. Actually, what happened is when I was making other art, if I had leftover paint on my palette, I would just open this book to a page and just like wipe my brush, clean off my palette, and then I would come back later and use other mediums on top of my acrylics to sort of see what showed up and what didn't show up, like what worked on top and what didn't. I was doing some birds. I was allowing myself to be inspired by other people's art. I was just working with shape and color. I was, scrolling through Instagram and being inspired by pages there. I have a favorite place where if you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably seen it, Bok Tower. This is one of my favorite scenes at Bok Tower. So I was trying that. I really actually was developing a love affair with ink. I didn't realize it. I've always loved birds and organic materials. So, and then I started experimenting with this idea of making kind of my own collage paper. And so you see some of that to where I intend to like cut this up or rip this up. And it was also experimenting, with color schemes and ideas and just, I don't know, it's play, right? And I was trying different techniques. Like this is staccato or something like that, where you scrape away the top layer of paint. And you can see that these are pages that I haven't used. And here you can start to see that I'm playing with brush brush strokes. Yes, I was like, oh my gosh, why can't I think of this word? And I actually even got some RNF oil sticks, and I was playing with those on top of acrylic. And I just was, I don't know, I guess I was sorting things out. I was also learning that, like, I have no patience, and that all of these, you know, pieces of paper stuck to the page are really a reflection of that. I oftentimes close my notebook before paint is dry, or I want to paint like 8 pages at one time. And so I'm just, you know, flipping them and hoping that they're not going to stick together. You know, I'm swatching. It just, you know, it was a very messy learning process. And this is where, you know, I started. And I still hope that I'm going to use these pages as collage. In fact, as I'm going through this showing you, I'm super inspired to possibly do that even today. Just try it. But that's my origin story, okay? Like, that's where I started. And the most recent video I posted is a sketchbook tour of this Art Creations sketchbook and this Cup of Clippa. I don't even know how you say it. Cup of Clip, something like that. I really love these sketchbooks. But these 2 sketchbooks, so if you are interested in that, I will try to post a link to that video at the end of this. But you can see where I go from that Soho craft paper sketchbook to this Royal Talens sketchbook and my journey through that. So I'm on my second Royal Talens sketchbook, which I started on February 8th. It's now February 17th. Happy Lunar New Year here. I asked myself, what do I really want to do today? And this was it. So here we are. So one thing that I returned to in that art creation sketchbook is Zentangling. And I did this because I'm also on the side taking every free class I can. And I have this book called 15-Minute Art Drawing. 15 minutes is a very approachable time. A long time ago, I had a friend who was a mom with me, or we both had toddlers. And if you have a toddler or you've ever had a toddler, you know that a toddler can trash your house in about 30 seconds. And you could spend all day cleaning up after the toddler and just be exhausted and never have a moment to refill your cup. But a dear friend of mine at the time, Andy, our sons were best buds and our daughters were best buds, told me that I asked her what her secret was because her house was always immaculate. And she said, oh, it's easy. I set the timer 15 minutes before I know my husband's coming home. I just set the timer on the microwave and I run around and I clean everything up and I get the kids to help me. Or sometimes it's still during their nap time and I'm able to do it in peace and quiet and just sort of, it's like a meditative practice. And she was like, try it. Set your alarm on your microwave for 15 minutes and you just clean for that entire 15 minutes and you'll see your house will be immaculate all the time. And I was like, I just don't believe you. And so I tried it and it was true. 15 minutes was a lot longer than I thought it was. And I could accomplish a ton. So that's why this book really appealed to me, because 15 minutes just makes it approachable. So sometimes you'll resonate with something just because it has some connection to you like that. I don't particularly recommend this book. It's not the style that I want to do, but it is very approachable, and it is definitely, I usually finish these projects in less than 15 minutes. Oh wow, I didn't even know she did plaid in here. But I returned a lot to my own history to like move forward. And what I found with my Zentangles, which I used to do all the time as like a 17 or 18-year-old. And, you know, I kept having, as I was Zentangling, I kept having these experiences where I would remember figuring out, you know, like mark making as a 17 or 18-year-old. Like I would be like, oh, I remember this pattern that I used to make. Oh, I remember I learned something about how to actually make this pattern. And I'm so upset because I did not keep the notebooks that I Zentangled in, or at least I can't find them. I have looked all over in all my old stuff. I found like doodles and stuff that I did, but like not that. And so it's almost like I have deja vu kind of a lot when I'm doing Zentangles, which is sort of fun. I do feel like it's in some way sort of connecting me to this younger, you know, sort of more naive part of myself that I miss, that I love. And so I keep Zentangling. But the thing that I've discovered about Zentangling is that I think it is a really good sort of way to start making art, because I did this one this morning, because it's mark making, it's line making, and it's also a lot of decision making, and art is decision making. We all sort of glorify art in the same way I feel like we glorify love. Right? It's like, oh, I just want to fall in love and be sort of swept off my feet and live in this fairy tale for the rest of my life. That just really isn't how it is. And I mean, not to say that there aren't aspects of that or moments of that in the process of falling in love and in long-lasting love even. But it's it's also work, you know, it's also discipline, it's also dedication, it's also intention, it's also focus, it's also prioritization and decision making. And so is art. And, you know, we glorify art in this way of just like looking at things that are perfect. But, you know, when you get sucked into this place of things have to be sort of perfect all the time, it takes away the energy of exploration and curiosity. And I really don't want to get sucked into that. So I want to build a strong foundation, and I want to really enjoy my process and kind of let it feed my soul, you know, rather than sort of my soul like outputting in art. Like I really don't know how to describe it, but I do know, because I have had the like an incredible career as a photographer, that and a lot of it was being pushed into situations like many years ago. I was doing a relief calendar for a hurricane disaster area, and we were shooting models in a castle, and I had not gone to this location to do this project, so I did not have my fancy lights. I really had like bare bones equipment with me. And I had to figure out, luckily there was a barn with a lot of construction equipment in it. And I was able to figure out how to sort of jerry rig construction lights into professional photography lights by asking this lovely man to build these scrims, and I just jerry rigged it. And I just went with it. I didn't say no. I might look bad as a photographer. Like the images might not be right. There might be a lot of color noise. There might be this, there might be that. I said yes. And I always said yes as a photographer. I would always, you know, consider it a challenge and really step up to it. And I photographed theater. And theater is very difficult to photograph. And a lot of times I would even find myself saying, this might be impossible. Like, I just don't know, if there's enough light here for me to actually capture what is happening here. But I would push myself and my tools to their very limit in order to try. And I just want to hold on to that part of me. I want to push that side of me through this journey of art, that I'm not worried that, people are going to judge me and say, oh, that's not perfectly lit, or that's not the quality that we would normally expect from her. Or, I want to push myself beyond that bounds and say, I don't really care what people think. And I don't care. I do a Zentangle every day. And if you want to judge me for it, judge me, go right ahead. But I know that I'm developing tools and marks that are going to translate in important ways to me later. I just know that. I can feel it. And so, and these patterns are called neurographs. I mean, all of this is very relaxing. I mean, Zentangling was invented to help people relax and unwind. And, you can see, like, here's an exploration. This day I was drawing pears in my drawing class, and I translated it over to my book here and making, pears in my Zentangle, and trying to figure out how to express their curvature in lines and mark making. And the other thing about this particular page is I used Derwent Inktense sticks, and I had gotten some new Sodalite watercolor that day, and I used the Sodalite watercolor to activate the Inktense on the page. And I love the quality that I got from it. I just love the look and the feel of that. And so, that's something I can translate into other kinds of art. The other thing that I have discovered through Zentangling is that I absolutely love ink. And I love fountain pens. And so I really hope to be able to like urban sketch and to be able to plein air sketch and really like accurately represent the things that I'm seeing. But, I am also practicing using some of those textures from my Zentangles to represent real things and real textures, so that is kind of exciting. And this page, I used acrylic ink and neo colors to make the background. And I don't know if you can see, but it feels much more like a lino cut print than it does ink, like that. It feels much more like a lino cut print. And I love that. And so I'm learning. I was under the blankets doodling the blanket, trying to make it curving, trying to give it dimension with my lines, which was something I was learning in a class. And with my dogs snuggled down, and this is a plant in my room. And it was just fun, but that's what I was doing there. And so, you start seeing the opportunity, like you start seeing things in practice that you're sort of working on. And the Zentangles have led me all kinds of places. I've done all kinds of weird stuff with that. I was drawing a sphere for an art class, and it was just hanging out there on the page, and I did it in water-soluble graphite. And so then I was like, I'm going to make a scene using that. And I was like, what does it look like to me? And I was like, the moon. And so then I layered neo colors with my water-soluble graphite, and I got like a graph tint look. I have Derwent graph tint, and it kind of has that coloration to it. And I loved that as well. This was just, I have a lot of plants in this window, and so I was going to draw them, but I never did, and I never finished this either. But again, this was a drawing class that I did this picture, making a circle and a cylinder and another cylinder, and then the handle, and making it into a picture. So, you can kind of see this is a plein air sketching, we had a terrible frost in Florida, and this was just me using, this is like a Stabilo all, and I think Derwent Inktense and ink, water-soluble graphite, and obviously water-soluble ink. This is actually a fountain pen that I love, but I put brown ink in it, but it's not waterproof. And that's really what the ground looks like there, which is kind of shocking when you live in Florida. It's almost always green. But anyway, I don't want to like go through this whole book, right? But I think that, you know, what I want to learn to do, or what I'm trying to learn to do, is to use all these tools that I bought and that I have now, and you know, figure out how they relate to me. Not, you know, I see this on a YouTube video and I'm gonna do it just like that person, or even hope to eventually do it exactly like that person. I really want to know what I have to say. Like, what is the point of, you know, just trying to figure out whether or not you can do something exactly the same way as someone else. You know what I mean? And I don't think most of us set off to be, you know, art copiers. You know, I think we do set off to try to learn for ourselves. So I'm just over here sharing my process and how I have, you know, gotten to the place where I'm at, and my thinking about it, so that, you know, maybe that sparks something within you about your thinking about it, or what you want to hold on to as an artist through your process. And also to show you that a daily art practice doesn't have to be drawing a masterpiece every day. It can be a Zentangle a day. It can be, you know, some loose sketch of the yoga studio in your house. Like that's what mine is. Or the blanket while you're snuggling with your dog, you can also make art, you know? So anyway, all I'm saying is that, I'm just over here trying to keep it real and share that process with you. And also I think maybe show you or talk about a little bit what I have discovered, or my thoughts after having bought all this stuff and gotten myself to where I am as an artist who's painting and using mixed media, my observations. And I think my deepest thoughts really are that it isn't fun to start with the basics, right? But the basics are what I find that I use the most at this point in my ability to express myself. I am obsessed with these, they're Kakuno, hopefully you can see that, fountain pens, and these are both fine tipped pens. This is the one with brown ink, and this one has black ink. And I also have another one that has blue-black ink, but I just don't have it right here. And these are like my favorite. I do not go almost anywhere without these. The other thing that I love more than life is this Pentel, I think it's called a Fude, F-U-D-E pen, or a pocket brush pen. And it has this brush. Mine is actually out of ink. I just had to order more ink because I use it so much. But this is actually a brush tip. It's like the same kind of tip as like this. You know, it's a brush. I don't want to do that with that because there's ink in there. But yeah, it's actually a brush. And it's wonderful. It's marvelous. It's magical. I use it every single day. The other tool that I use every single day is a Uniball Air Micro. This is not water soluble. So in other words, if I put this black mark down and I watercolor over it, it's not going to move. And it has a pretty fine tip. It's a dream to use. It can give you very fine to fine tip mark making. And I have them everywhere now because I can't live without them. I prefer them to the more expensive, whatever this is, Pigma, whatever. People love these. A lot of people find these to be amazing. And the thing is, you know, the tools that one person likes may not be the tools that another person likes, and it's really about finding out which ones you love for yourself. These are a lot cheaper than these, and these to me are amazing. These have very specific sizes. I have a whole set of these, and maybe that is going to be really attractive to me after, when I'm ready to do like more intricate ink drawings or something like that. So I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but right now, where my skill level is, these Uniball Air Micros are the best thing in the entire world. I love them. Those pens and this water-soluble graphite, I literally use every single day. And they are all extremely cheap. Well, I don't want to say they're extremely cheap. These pens are like between $10 and $20. And they come with like a cartridge or maybe 2 cartridges of ink. I can't remember. And these are very cheap. I can't remember, but I have several of them. They're floating around everywhere because this is my favorite thing to draw with, like as far as like a pencil goes. And it's got a very blunt tip. But it actually, I can't tell you how much I've used this and it still looks like new. I rotate it around to kind of sharpen the tip. I think some people sharpen it with a knife. I haven't felt the need to do that, but I suppose you could just shave off the graphite. But this is magical to me. I love this. I love the way it feels in my hand. I love drawing with it. I practice all kinds of different hand grips with it. And I just love the organic feeling nature of it and the weight of it. And it's very cheap. I think maybe $3 or something. So if I were just starting off, me by myself again, I would definitely buy these things. I would definitely have these things. Now, all that being said, I think my next favorite item, and this is where it gets really hard. I love Neocolor. These are water-soluble crayons. Maybe it would be helpful. Let me get my sketchbook and just show you what these all do, what they look like. How about that? Because talking about it is very different. But if you saw my Zentangles, these are what I use in all of them. I'm gonna just set things on top. I don't care. So this is the Uniball Micro. And it just, I mean, oh my gosh, you guys, like, I love it. I'll actually write this Uniball. That's what it is. Okay, this, like I said, is out of ink, so we'll see if it makes a mark. Kind of. It's usually a much darker, much more saturated thing. But this, oh, I love this thing. So I'm gonna write, this is a Pentel. I'm gonna say pocket brush pen, because if you look that up, you'll be able to find this. I think it's called this. Okay, and then this is a Pilot. All right, and this is a fine point. I have a medium point coming. That is with black ink. That just was what comes with the pen in it. And this is with brown, Pilot ink cartridge. If you just Google, if you just put Pilot Kakuno and then do ink cartridge, all kinds of colors are going to come up. So I use blue, black, black, and brown. Those are the only colors that I have. And then this is a Lyra water-soluble graphite pencil. You can see that line is not overly fat or thick. And, you know, I just turn it regularly when I'm using it. But you guys, I mean, this thing, I love it. So this is a Lyra water-soluble graphite. Favorite. So I used this a lot in that picture where I was showing the frost. So these are my can't live without them. They're always right next to me. I carry them around. I have them all over the place. And I have multiple of them because I just don't ever want to be without those. And then I'd say my next thing that I probably use the most are the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. This is an anniversary collection tin. It's lush. I also have the dark colors. And then I have, I think, the set of 15. You can see, like, I use these with and on top of other things. Like, I'll even put it on top of that water-soluble graphite. And now I just have this kid's brush sitting right here. But you can see that's kind of just a muddy mess, but you can see how they sort of work together because they're both water soluble, so they sort of mix. If I just, I wish I had a different paintbrush right here. Oh, I do. I have this one. This color isn't maybe the best example to use, or maybe this brush isn't the best example to use because it's not. Here's Prussian blue. I also love these when you can do it on top of water and it bleeds out, which makes a really beautiful organic line. I do that a lot in like when I'm doing like plein air painting and stuff. I don't know why this isn't really working to show you how fabulous these are, but let me do it like this. You know, so if I take these urban sketching or plein air sketching, which I do all the time, they allow me to have something that makes a mark, like almost like a colored pencil or a crayon. And then like you saw how I did that over water and it makes a one kind of mark. Dry, it makes a mark. On water, it makes a mark. And then it also makes a mark wet. And then you can also mix it with other medias that are water soluble and really layer them up, which is really, really, really nice. I like to do that a lot. Some of my favorite colors. So again, another observation that I kind of made is that after Christmas, I got a gift card to Dick Blick. And so I went to Dick Blick and I bought some things. And what I did when I went there is I bought one kind of like open stock pencil. Like I bought like 3 colors of each kind of open stock pencil. I bought 3 Neo colors. I bought, you know, I just sort of went around and I was like, I'm going to try these. I'm going to try this color. I'm going to try this type of pencil, this brand, this, you know, do I like watercolor pencils? Do I like Inktense pencils? What do I like? And I think that is a really good approach, even though it seems kind of chaotic to buy just like one, to like go to dickblick.com and buy like one colored pencil of each kind, or 2 or 3. They're like $2 or $3 a piece. So you have to be careful because they do have several kinds. But you know, you're gonna like some textures better than others. And I also find that whatever sketchbook I'm working really affects how I feel about a material. I didn't like the Royal Talent Art Creation sketchbook, which is what this is, when I had my first one, because I was really trying to use acrylic paint in it. And acrylic paint is not, this isn't like a wet media. This is a solid mixed media book, but you can't be overly aggressive with your water or your wet medium with it. It will frustrate you like it did me. It will rip you. You will, like, if you use too much water, it just becomes very a mess. So if you are really interested in watercolor, this might not be the place to start for you. You might want a watercolor sketchbook. Personally, I have like 5 sketchbooks going at all time, and one of them is a watercolor sketchbook. So I don't typically use this for watercolor. I use watercolor in it, but I don't use it to do like watercolor scenes. I use like my watercolor sketchbook. But 2 of my favorite Neocolors are olive brown and chromium oxide green. If you are into drawing landscapes or nature, I really think these are great. I think if you can get one of these sets, they're like $25 on Dick Blick, and you get, I think, 8 in each one of these sets. Or get the set of 15, I would do it because I just can't imagine anyone hating Neocolor. It makes art really accessible. You can, I can just sit here and draw, a leaf shape here and, color it in. And I mean, anyone can do that, right? We learned how to do that in kindergarten, and just sort of draw some petals and just be, very childish about it, not even really care that much about it. And then I come in and I can take water and I can sort of shape it more, and I can layer it, and I can, I can glaze that yellow over top of this green and, make it feel like the sun is hitting it a little bit, there's just so much you can do with it that I do feel like it's a good place to start. It's a great starting tool, and a lot of artists are using them even at very high levels. So I just recommend them. I actually bought the Neo Art wax oil pastels, the 6901. They're light fast, which means they're not going to fade over time. And I was like, wow, I really love my Neocolors. These are also water soluble. And they are, you guys, every time I get them out and use them, and you can use these a lot, and they don't go down very fast. Like, you're not using a ton of actual material, which I feel like kind of makes things feel more accessible. Like, I'm not afraid to use these because wait, did I get this wrong? You guys, I use so many different kinds of things, or I have experimented with so many different kinds of things. These might be the ones that are not water soluble. So these are like Neocolor ones. Yeah, they're wax oil pastels. So these are not water soluble. So these are amazing to make marks in like paint, or like as like to kind of even like scratch into a surface, or to add texture to like this globby flowery shape. If I take one of these and I go over my stem and my leaf, it's going to, it's going to take that on, and it's not going to mix with the water. So I'm trying to show you, like, so I can go back in and I can put, a shape in there, or I can, add a texture in there without it blending, smushing. It's going to stay very much its own separate thing. It's great. I love those. And I also love pretty much this entire brand, everything. My childhood watercolor set was this brand, and I still have it, and I still love it. I still go back to it from time to time. Then a lot of this other stuff is stuff that I saw in other artists' videos that I might not have naturally gravitated toward, but because I saw them use it and got so engrossed in it and thinking of all the things that I might be able to do with it. I bought them. And the one thing I really don't regret buying are these Derwent Inktense sticks. They are, wait, can you even see that? These Derwent Inktense sticks. I just bought a few colors because I didn't buy a set, because I really didn't know if I was gonna love them or what. I also have the Inktense pencils, and I also have two of the palettes, these. Yeah, palette. And I love all of them. I love Derwent colors. They're very natural. They're very organic. These become like ink. They become a stain. You can wet them and move them around. And I can even go like this and pick it up on my brush, which I do kind of a lot, and, you know, make a mark. Just use it like paint. But the cool thing about Inktense, and what makes it such a really cool thing to use, is that it becomes like ink, and it's then permanent. If this were watercolor, I would, after this was dry, I would be able to come by and I would be able to move the pigment around still. I would be able to change what I had here, or mix it, or, you know, I could do a lot of different things with it. But I don't always want that. You know, I don't always want the pigment to move. Sometimes when I have the pigment down, I'm like, wow, I love that the way it is. But then it's going to move if I put anything on top of it. And this, once it dries, it's done. It's not going anywhere. So those are great. These paintbrushes also are great. These are calligraphy paintbrushes. That's like $5 for like 3 of them. And they make a lot of different brush marks. They can be very thin. And then you can also, you know, really kind of lay down a lot with them, and they do hold a lot of water. So they're kind of fabulous. I love them. So definitely those two things I highly recommend. The other thing, and this is something that, you know, I find that I really like, I have heard other people say that they don't really like them, these Unison soft pastels. They come in the most gorgeous color. They're hand rolled. They're very expensive. They have like try it sets that are just half sticks, and that's what I started with. But I love them. You can use them. This is wet still from where I was just showing you about that paintbrush, or you can use them dry. So they go over everything, and like the colors that they come in are just spectacular. You can just wet them and they set. You can use alcohol or water. Both are great. So they're amazing for underpaintings. I also mix them straight with Inktense. I love that. And I also mix them straight with watercolors. And I love that. They add like a chalky, organic kind of feel to things. And they're beautiful colors. So those are great. It's like you start going down this path and you're like, yeah, well, it's all pretty great. But I just think that, like, if you're just starting off and you want to add color and you want to learn to draw, or you want to get good, not having a ton of tools, not having a ton of options is sometimes such a benefit, you know, because you have to make fewer decisions, and you really get to know those items. And so even though I went out and bought all this stuff, or I got all this stuff, people have been giving it to me as gifts lately. Like, I've just been accumulating a lot of art stuff. I'm kind of like, I'll expand in that direction next, or I familiarize myself with what I have. I swatch it out. I look at it. I think about potential uses for it. If I'm making art and I'm like, gosh, I wish I really had something that did this, I'll look on my shelves to see, do I have something that does that? Maybe I already do. And so that's cool. Or I'll be like, well, you know what? I forgot I had this. Let me try this. Let me see what this does. Let me see if this could be an answer, or if I could figure out how to do this. So in that way, it is nice to have things, but also, like, if I just put this all out in front of myself and was like, make art, it would just not, it wouldn't be fun for me. It would be too many decisions, too many choices. The other thing is, you know, with colored pencils, there are so many colored pencils. I really love these Create a Color Mega Color. I have a little bit of arthritis in this knuckle, and these are so comfortable. I think they might be made for kids. I don't know. But I really like the colors that they come in. They may not be light fast, but they're great in my sketchbook. I use them when, and the lead is very fat. So you can make, you know, a fatter line, which is nice, cover a lot more ground. And they're great. I love these. I have a few. I don't have a ton, but I have a few of these. Blackwing matte black pencil. This is the best sketching pencil I have found, and everybody says that, and that's why I got it, and I think it's great. You can get it in a set of 3 that has 3 different Blackwing pencils for like $16 on Amazon, I think. But like a box of these pencils is like $34. Like it's expensive. So I would get like a try me set, or try to figure out how to just buy one, you know what I mean? Derwent watercolor pencils, I love. Derwent Inktense pencils, I love. You know, again, they do different things. The Inktense, this is Scarlet Pink Inktense pencil. This is Pale Peach watercolor pencil. It's probably going to be pretty hard to see, but you know, the watercolor, like I said before, I'll be able to move that around all the time. The Inktense, once I put it down, I won't be able to move it, but they mix together beautifully. I like using the Inktense with the watercolor pencils because you can get a lot more colors, and the watercolor, it reacts differently to water. It's more like watercolor, you know what I mean? And so it adds that characteristic to the Inktense, which I'm more comfortable with watercolor. So that just makes me feel a little safer using it, even though it's still going to dry like ink. But it's fun to mix. It's fun to mix things. It's fun to layer things. Posca markers, these are acrylic paint markers. I have found 1,000 uses for these things around my house, like just in life. I also write the, you know, what I'm on my sketchbook, what kind of sketchbook it is. This sketchbook is where I'm doing the 15-minute art practice, you know, from that 15-minute drawing book. Those are where I do those kind of exercises. I don't do those in my actual sketchbook. I don't know why. That's just my preference. And yeah, these are just various watercolors and acrylic gouache. The thing that I wish I had known when I was buying gouache is that acrylic gouache, you can't just squeeze it into a watercolor pan and then re-wet it and use it over again. You have to use it in one sitting. You know, you can't come back to it and re-wet it. It's not going to reconstitute. Gouache, like this is gouache, regular gouache. It's just like watercolor. I can put it in a pan. I can come back to it day after day and just re-wet it and go and paint with it. The acrylic gouache comes in a lot of really amazing colors and sets, and it definitely has its place, and I definitely use it. But like if you're trying to make a palette, or you're trying to kind of figure out your basic colors that you're going to be mixing a lot or using a lot, or you want to be able to like have quick access to them, I recommend the kind that you can just reconstitute with water. You know, this is my favorite watercolor color. It's called Moonglow by Daniel Smith. It's like granulating and it's beautiful. As far as markers go, I really have not gotten into markers. I've tried them a couple times. The first time I used my Winsor & Newton watercolor markers, these pro markers, it bled through and ruined other stuff that I had done. And so I was really upset about it, and I just haven't used them since. I don't really ever feel like reaching for a marker when I have all these other things. The Eco line, these are by Royal Talons. I like these if I'm going out sketching and I know I'm going to be doing like a landscape in the garden. I can just put those down on the page, and then I can move them around with water because they're water based, and get a really quick kind of watercolor background. So that's cool. And like those are things that I do before I go out. Like especially if I am familiar with where I'm going to be sketching, you can really do that. And you can even do that and then go over it in ink and do an ink drawing. Like you saw, I've done that a few times. Anyway, guys, these travel palettes by Derwent are great. I don't know if they're really travel palettes. I think they are. They come with like a water brush. And to use with these water brushes, they're just, I mean, this is like super easy, super fast, you know, paint on the run. And I even take this and I will take clips and I'll clip the watercolor to my sketchbook. And then I have almost like a sort of a more secure feeling setup. And I feel like they work really well with this Royal Talons Art Creations. Pan pastels, I love these. I love them over colored pencils. I use them kind of a lot, but if you don't have them, you won't miss them, I don't think, but they're a fun thing to add eventually. I love golden acrylic paint. I use that a lot. All different. I use the fluid. I use the heavy body. I have all kinds of it. But anyway, I don't know. And I think like the cool thing about that I've figured out is just I want to know how all these things work together and how I can push these tools to do the most. And the only way to do that is to use them, to experiment, to play, to practice, to try. And I feel like the really approachable way that I have found to do that right now is Zentangles. I use Inktense, I use watercolor, I use gouache, I use acrylic inks, I use almost everything. And you can see this, whatever this is bleeding through here. That's just the nature of this paper. But yeah, and I, you know, this is the route I'm taking. We'll see where it goes. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens, I guess, right? But I just encourage you all to just get out there and use what you have, whatever it is, and find your favorite things. Find the things that you can't live without. Find the things that really bring you joy that you want to try more of and try in different ways, and then do it. And don't worry about making bad art. You know, art is art, you know, there's no such thing as bad art, really. You know, there's your beginning origin story, right? And there's where you end up, and there's everything that happens in between. But all of those steps are necessary to get you to that place, right, where you're really happy with it. And so, you know, it really is about enjoying the journey and doing what makes you happy and continuing to do more of that, in my opinion, and figuring out what your voice is and not worrying about people judging your sketchbook, you know? So there's my truth. That's what I've learned. That's what I figured out from buying all this stuff and then, you know, going down this path. And hopefully this has provided you with some kind of insight or some kind of jumping off point or some kind of valuable information. I sure hope it has. And yeah, if you have an art page, let me know. Leave it in the comments. I'd love to see it. All right. Thanks, guys. Until next time, I send you off with all my best. Always, always, always. Bye-bye.